The first one is unlearning the idea that the way to gain respect is to do what other people want you to do, and instead understand that the most powerful way to gain somebody's respect is to have clear boundaries.
How would one unlearn their belief system, which is alcohol helps me reduce stress and anxiety, alcohol helps me sleep, alcohol is required to create romance, alcohol is required when our team wins the championship so we can celebrate and spray champagne everywhere, alcohol is required to do client networking, alcohol is related to win a business deal, alcohol is needed to create a bond between friends, and so forth and so forth and so forth. Now, there's a lot of cultural conditioning that goes on here in society, and I submit that it starts when your parents drink in front of you and you say, oh no, little Brit, or no, little James, you can't drink now, you can drink when you're older. And so it implants in the child's mind, oh, this is a rite of passage. This is something that I get to do when I'm an adult. That's where it starts in my view. And then, of course, that's reinforced through college, where you've got kids partying and have a good time. Smiling assassins come from everywhere. A smiling assassin is someone who's smiling as they offer you a drink. Hey, would you like a drink? Let's have a drink. Oh, geez, I was drunk last night. Ha, 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 ha. So now we're associating this attractively packaged poison of alcohol with fun and connection and bond. So I guess my question is, knowing what you know about peak performance and helping high achievers to unlearn what they have learned, how could we unlearn these beliefs around alcohol so we actually can choose an alcohol-free lifestyle?
Yeah, I love this question. I'm going to give you a few different answers. The first one is often the desire to drink is fueled by the idea that if we have boundaries, we'll look stupid. And I think that for a lot of people, they're afraid to say no because of what it will look like. And I think the reality is understanding that we respect people who have conviction. We respect people who know who they are and know what they want. And if you've ever looked at anybody in your life who has a clear boundary, I've asked this question to so many people. I say, what is the feeling or thought that you have? And they say respect. And so the first one is unlearning the idea that the way to gain respect is to do what other people want you to do, and instead understand that the most powerful way to gain somebody's respect is to have clear boundaries. And so once you decide what it is that you want, when you stand behind that with conviction, you're not looking stupid or like you don't fit in or like you don't belong. You're actually gaining the respect to say, I am a boundaried person. I'm not somebody who lays down under your tractor, right? I'm very clear of who I am. So that's the first one. The second one is very often we drink because there's an underlying feeling of not good enoughness or a lack of worth that we're trying to cope with. And I think that the more we understand that high achievers often feel like I can't handle those things. I need to focus. I need to focus on my business. I can't afford to feel my feelings. I can't afford to deal with my underlying stuff. And I think the reality is you can't afford not to, because right now you might be fine. But at some point, these things are only going to grow, right? If there's a piece of cheese under the couch, it's not bad for the first week, but 3 years later, you're going to have a lot of mold under your couch, right? So I think this belief that I can't afford to feel my feelings, I can't handle it, I'm going to fall apart, I'm not going to be able to put myself back together. You still have your resilience, the resilience that you have gained in your life, you still have. It's not like you open Pandora's box and it all spills out and now you're the ocean and you're drowning. You can let it out a little bit at a time, but I think starting to focus on those feelings and starting to process things, you will find that when you're doing the work, I think alcohol will feel a lot less appealing. It's like after you go to the gym, you don't want to eat a hamburger and french fries. If you don't work out one day, it's like, oh, I want a burger and fries and a beer. But after you work out really hard at the gym, the last thing you want is crappy food and alcohol. You want to eat a salad, right? You want to eat some, good protein. It's the same thing with working on yourself. If you're not working on yourself, it's easy to want to cope. But when you're actively working on yourself, it's really inspiring. It's really empowering. And I think from that place, we're a lot less likely to want to cope and a lot more likely to want to figure out what is that underlying belief and how do I work through that? And I find that in that space, people want to feel into their power, not into coping. So that's number two. And the third thing I would say is very often I think people drink to cope with fear. And I think being able to distinguish between unsafe and uncomfortable is a huge unlock. If I'm unsafe, I feel powerless, I feel small, I want to escape, I want to run away. When in contrast, we say, I'm not unsafe, there's no threat to my survival. For anyone listening to this podcast right now, you are not unsafe. The worst that it gets is this is uncomfortable. Now, uncomfortable might be really painful. Uncomfortable might be challenging. But I will be willing to bet there's not a single person who is listening to this podcast who has not dealt with uncomfortable and unpleasant things before. You have a process for dealing with uncomfortable and unpleasant. When you make the distinction between unsafe and uncomfortable, you no longer need to escape. You no longer need to run away. You no longer need to hide. It's just uncomfortable. I've done uncomfortable things before. Who do I want to be in my life? Do I want to be someone who can't manage uncomfortable? No, I want to be someone who can. And I think that's very empowering to face that discomfort and to work through it rather than running away. Again, the biggest asset you will ever have is the person you're becoming. Who do you want that person to be? How do they behave? How do they show up? How do they manage discomfort? And to practice dealing with the unpleasantries in life and the discomfort we face from stepping outside of our comfort zone in a really different way. And then you'll start to see the benefits. And I think the virtuous cycle will kind of speak for itself. So, one, know your boundaries and speak your boundaries as a way to gain respect. Number two, really understanding that the fears of working on yourself or opening Pandora's box, Pandora doesn't have a box, right? We're not living in a myth. It's one thing at a time. If you work on your stuff, you're going to feel empowered. You're going to want to better yourself. And I think you're not going to want to indulge in the same toxic behaviors. And then number three, if you're unsafe, you want to escape and you want to run away. But if you're just uncomfortable, the person you're becoming wants to manage that discomfort effectively. And so really leaning in and working through whatever it is that is outside of your comfort zone will help you cultivate the person you want to become. So that's what came up for me when you asked that question.
Practically, let's just say we have a business owner or an executive, and there's a corporate golf day on Saturday, and there's an open bar. And after you've played some golf, you go back to the clubhouse. Booze is on us. Open bar. Okay. And everyone's there, and there's the boss or the owner of the company, or there are clients, and you're networking. How does the gentleman or the lady who is wanting not to drink because they're committed to an alcohol-free lifestyle, how does that person practically handle that situation when smiling assassins are everywhere going, here, have a drink. Would you like to have a drink? Have a drink.
Yeah, I would say you smile back even bigger. I'm good, thank you. And if they ask, oh yeah, no, I don't drink, because what you're communicating is, I have values, I have goals, and I am unwavering in my commitment to them. How much are you showing of your character when you are clear that you will do hard things in order to go after what you want? So I think when someone's like, oh, no, just have a drink. I think if you are very clear, one sentence answer, I'm good, thank you. And if they ask again, oh, no, I don't drink, you are communicating, once again, that you know who you are, what you believe in, and your goals, and you are unwavering in your commitment. And I think that says volumes about your character and will definitely catch attention in a positive way, that if it's noticed, that you are someone who's not to be reckoned with.